What's going on, guys? Alex here, back for another video. And this one's going to be on the 3 most common objections that I receive specifically within wholesaling lease options. All right, now these aren't the only objections that I get, obviously, but these are the 3 main ones for me. And I believe that if you're able to conquer these 3 and know them, then you're in very good shape to handle any other objections that they can come at you. All right, so these are the 3 most common ones, and I guess I want to premise this video with think of objections as a good thing, right? First of all, you're not going to get a contract without receiving any objections. Very rarely. I don't think that's ever happened to me, okay, no matter what I was selling. So welcome objections. It usually means that the seller is interested in what you have to offer, and they just need to make more sense of it. They just need to know that you're someone who's competent enough to say what you're doing, right? You presented them with some options. Are you competent to get it done and overcome any scenarios that might happen, or at least inform them on any scenarios that could potentially happen and make them feel more confident about their decision, right? So think of objections as a good thing. I always get excited when I hear objections. It means that they're interested, and I know my response to pretty much whatever objection they can come at me at this point. I shouldn't say that, but these 3 right here, I know for sure, and that's why I know. I just look at it as a good thing. So you want to flip your mindset on objections in general, right? You're gonna get them. I usually like to receive them as soon as possible, right? If I get objections on the first phone call, it means that I did a good job of explaining, and they have interest and they want to know more. Usually it happens on the second call, on the follow-up call, after some time has passed, and I might follow up with them, and then they say, all right, this might actually be an option for me, and then they'll come at me with objections. I like to answer them on the phone before meeting in person, just to get them out of the way and not waste time when I'm there, right? Even though most times they're still going to bring it up when I'm at the appointment as well, but I like to get them done. I like to answer them over the phone, and then when I'm in person, they can meet me face to face. They'll probably bring them up again just to see if I'm consistent with my responses, but just nail these 3 down and welcome objections. I guess that's all I wanted to say to begin. But yeah, let's get into it. The first objection, probably the main one you're going to get, is what if the buyer trashes my home? Okay, and as you can see here, I have principles. I don't have scripts for you. I'm going to share what I say on this video, but it's important to learn the principles, because when you know the principle behind it, then you can actually use your own words, and it's not going to sound like it's scripted, so to speak, right? So it's a possibility that a buyer might trash their home when they're living in there. But keep in mind, what you want to get across to the seller's mind is that they're dealing with a buyer. They're not dealing with a traditional renter. What is the main difference between the two? So a renter is someone who doesn't have much skin in the game. In my state of Massachusetts, first, last, and security is the most that a landlord can ask for up front. But in the case of a buyer who has the option to purchase, then you can ask for as much down payment as you require, because you're tying up your home with an option to purchase. So generally speaking, they come in with 3 to 10%. They have a lot of skin in the game. As a condition of their option as a seller, they're also responsible for any responsibilities that have to do with the house, any expenses, any repairs, any maintenance. So they see it as it's their home, and they're more likely to treat it better that way than had you just rented it outright. All right. So you just want to make sure that they know that they're dealing with a buyer. And even though it is a possibility, right, there's always risk involved. There's always pros and cons that they might trash their home. The likelihood of that is much lower because they're going in with a buyer mindset. You need to make sure you get that across to them, and then they'll decide whether they want to take on that risk or not. I usually say, if that's what's going to keep you up at night, maybe it's not the best option for you. But then again, if you were to rent this out, then the likelihood of them trashing your home is much higher than a buyer. Wouldn't you agree? So again, remember the principle, and remember this one. This is probably going to be the main one you're going to get. This is number 2 up there as well. What if they default? Now, what do I mean by that? Seller wants to know, what if the buyer doesn't exercise their option to purchase, right? There's many reasons why they might not want to. I usually bring it up that it's usually because of a life event, maybe a divorce or an unfortunate life situation for the family, which is why they're losing out on their commitment with their option deposit. But the principle here is that let them know that they have outs. They have 3 different options, and the ball is in their court, right? So I usually let them know. So if a buyer were to default due to a life event, then you have three different options. And option one, you can either decide to renew them for another additional 3 to 6 months or to a year, assuming they've been paying on time, assuming they've been making progress to get to the finish line. Then you might want to extend their term a bit, right? That because they're that much closer to do it. That's probably going to be the right thing to do. But let's assume that that they haven't been making progress, or they just move out due to a life event. At that point, you can either give us a call, and we'll help replace them with someone else, collect another non-refundable option deposit, and someone else you can fulfill the term, and hopefully we don't have this happen again. But that's option two. And then option three is you can just simply decide to sell it outright at that point. Either way, Mr. Seller, the ball's in your court. Your mortgage has been paid on time in the meantime, and now you're back to where you started, usually at a higher price, because usually the house has appreciated by then, and you're right back to where you started. But that's worst case scenario, Mr. Seller, right? That's how I define it. So the principle behind that is that they have three different options, and again, the ball's in their court, and they're usually in a better position than where they started, right? So that's if they default. The third one is, when will I receive a cash out, right? Because usually the goal for most sellers is to sell their house as quickly as possible for as high as possible for a price, and they're not usually able to do that, which is why we come in with this option, and they want to know, all right, so when am I going to receive a cash out? The principle behind this is that, again, our buyers usually need 18 to 24 months, but let's see what the market brings, right? So we don't know for sure how long a cash out is going to be until we find a bird in the bush, or I won't even use that analogy. Until we have a buyer in hand, right, and we have them pre-screened with a third-party company. I use Paul Ritter over at my credit team. Until we have that buyer in hand, then we're not going to know how to structure the term. We're not going to know how long they're going to need to get mortgage ready. So I say, well, it usually takes 18 to 24 months on average, but let's see what the market brings. Sometimes we can get someone for 12 months, and sometimes it might be a little longer. We don't know until we find the right buyer for the property, right? So that kind of eliminates that objection, because you're not going to know for sure until you actually find the buyer. So you have to go through your buyer systems. You have to market the home. You have to find out. You have to find a qualified buyer basically before you can have this answer firm for them, right? So that's an easy way to overcome that objection, and an easy way to get into your test close as far as when they would like to get the process started, right? So those are the three main objections that I get. I know that if I saw this video when I was first starting out, it would be extremely helpful. For some reason, whatever courses you might take, you're not going to get a lot of these these sales scripts. I owe Smart Real Estate Coach for a lot of what I've learned over Chris Prefontaine, Zach Beach, Nick Prefontaine. They've been super helpful to me, so I always refer them. If you want to know like where I learned from and such. I've had many mentors via courses and things like that, but those guys I owe the most gratitude for in regards to this. So yeah, let me know if you come across any other objections that maybe you received and how to handle that. Let me know what you think of this video. As a reminder, I post weekly seller calls. I post weekly live calls in general. And I make those private within 24 hours. So if you do want access to those prior to those going private, which I don't release them live again after that, then be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit the bell. And if this video was helpful for you, if this helped you in any way, then be sure to like the video, leave a comment. It really motivates me to want to create more content and help you guys out even more. All right. So once again, guys, thanks for watching, and look out for the next one.